Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I'm joined by Caleb James, the lead film analyst at Arrowhead Pride. He is also a contributor on the channel, and we're going to dive into the Chiefs and Broncos matchup and preview certain aspects because one question that I have is how is the Chiefs' offensive line going to slow down maybe one of the best defensive lines ever? I mean, Nick Bonito is tearing it up right now, and through 10 weeks, the Denver Broncos have 46 sacks as a team. They're on pace to absolutely shatter the single-season sack record. And so, Caleb, I want to ask you, what is the fear in your mind going up against, a pass rush of that quality with the Chiefs' offensive line and some of the question marks we have on who's even going to start?
Well, the thing with the Broncos defensive line is they have so many options. It's not just one guy that's going to hurt you. Just for example, you got Nick Bonito on the outside. You got Zach Allen on the inside. So they can hit you kind of however you want. And then when you go in and you just look at, the core of Vance Joseph's defense and what he wants to do, they've really strived to isolate, offensive linemen one-on-one in bad situations for them. That's led to some insane numbers this year. Now, their defense has clearly led their team. They wouldn't have the record they did if it wasn't for that, but they are very good. That's easily the number one thing the Chiefs are going to have to be ready for this week. The Chiefs' offensive line, they've had some blemishes the last few weeks. They put up some strong games against the Detroit Lions. They put some strong stuff together back to back. But really, the last few weeks, there's been a few blemishes with Jalen Moore kind of showing some of his limitations. And then Jawan Taylor kind of regressing a little bit this past week against Joey Bosa. So unfortunately, they've put that stuff on tape now. So that's stuff the Broncos are going to be able to feed off of. It will be interesting to see if Josh Simmons is back in the lineup. He's back after a long hiatus from the team. It did appear that he practiced today and was a full participant. I'd be surprised if he didn't play. I think you were echoing something similar to that. And with Bonito, a guy like him wins with speed and quickness, flexibility. Those are his trademarks. That's what he's going to win on a lot. The Chiefs tackles really aren't terrible when they have to go against the speedy, quick guys where they've been beat. Well, no one's really beat Josh Simmons too bad yet, but in the past where Jawan Taylor struggled, it's against more powerful bull rush type guys. And you saw that a little bit with Joey Bosa this past week. But really this week, I think it's going to be about just keeping Bonito in front of you and not getting worried about that speed off the edge. You got to be patient in your sets. He wants you to get out and overset so he can, jump in and run the gap on you. And then they just need to have faith that Mahomes is going to be comfortable enough to step up so they can wash him around when he does want to go wide.
Well, for the Chiefs' offensive, game plan going into this game, do you tell Mahomes to get rid of the ball quickly? Do you change your blocking assignments up front? Do you run the ball? I don't think that's going to happen. But wait, what would you do if you're Andy Reid to kind of throw some different looks at that Denver defense?
I think the plan is you've got to go back to some of that quick game stuff. I think against Buffalo, they kind of went backwards. They'd been running this really good quick game set the last few weeks they'd played, where it's just Mahomes, quick drop back, get a slant out quick to Hollywood, Juju, even Rashee Rice getting in the mix there this week, against Buffalo. I thought they were trying to push the ball way too far down the field. It felt like everything that they were doing was trying to push the ball deep. The run was an afterthought. Running the ball would be probably a good plan against Denver this week. You're going to have a chance to keep their pass rush somewhat honest, and it's just good chunk plays. Now, I think an area the Chiefs will try to utilize this week, I think they're going to go to kind of their version of the run, where we're going to run some screens outside, try to catch them in some one-on-one situations where they're going to be not quite expecting, maybe a quick pass out in the flat or something like that. I can see them taking advantage of this week. I think Xavier Worthy being able to stretch the field this week is going to help also. I think this was the week you see him kind of stretch the field laterally and try to stress Denver, really stress them on the backside, make them play contain, and really try to break something. I can see him having a big factor this week.
Okay, and then that kind of leads into my next question. Do you think that, there's a weakness on that Denver defense that Mahomes can kind of target?
So it sounds like their middle linebacker, Alex Singleton's having some health issues and he's not going to be available. He's the green dot of their defense. He calls the plays in. Um, our old foe from the 49ers, Dre Greenlaw, he's going to be stepping in, taking that. He's been a tremendous player in some of these matchups. He's a great player for San Francisco. He's a great fit for what the Broncos want to do, but that's not really been his role here this season since he's joined the Broncos. So there could be a little bit weaker across the middle than they've been in the past. They have a good secondary. They have a great pass rush. It's going to be hard to beat. I do think if they want to try to find a way to beat him, it's going to be in the middle of the field, whether maybe running the ball in the middle or hitting those slants and then really trying to stretch people with some of the stuff with Xavier Worthy, like I was saying. But I would see early on how well Denver's defense is communicating, if it's that much of a drop off with their play caller on defense out, or if it's going to be some different stuff with with Greenlaw in there.
Well, I'll tell you what, the scary thing about Denver's pass rush is, I mean, the sacks, they speak for themselves. The pressures, it speaks for itself, but they win so early on in the set that it's like forcing the opposing team to get the ball out quickly or you're going to get sacked. And so, yeah, Xavier Worthy could stretch the field, but it's really going to come down to, can Josh Simmons and Juwan Taylor make the Broncos defensive line win slower, I guess you could say. But I want to get your thoughts on the Chiefs defense going up against Bo Nix, and we'll do that right after this break. This video is sponsored by my friends over at DM Injury Law. Injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation, but time is critical. Rely on the experienced personal injury attorneys at DM Law, Kansas City and Missouri's top injury law firm. DM Law is a full-service personal injury practice supported by a large team of investigators, case managers, medical record specialists, and more. And best of all, you don't pay unless they win. DM Law operates on a contingency fee basis, meaning no fees unless they win your case. And they also provide free consultations. So if you've been injured, don't wait. You can contact DM Law today for a free consultation and learn how they can help you pursue the compensation you deserve. Let them handle the fight while you focus on healing. Hurt in a car wreck? Call Mike. Remember, Mike's got this. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisement. Thanks to DM Injury Law for sponsoring this video. The Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway is the place to be. With over 1,500 slot machines, 35 table games, 4 restaurants, and an ESPN Bet sportsbook, there are plenty of ways to find your fun. For more chances to win, follow their Facebook, Instagram, and X. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Huge thanks to the sponsors that have supported this channel all football season long. Now, Caleb, one of the things that we've talked about a lot this week is that Bo Nix, for being the leader of an 8-2 football team, hasn't been very good. He has been worse in his sophomore season than he was in his rookie season. He's still been a fine player, and he's orchestrated a lot of comebacks, but the Broncos are winning in spite of their offense. It's because their defense is elite. And so what are your thoughts on Bo Nix, and what is the Chiefs' defensive game plan to silence him?
If you talk about one of the 5 most disappointing offensive units in football this year, I think the Broncos have to be up there. They got Cortland Sutton, they've got good running backs, they have a talented offensive line. It's just, it feels like the quarterback is holding them back, and they've put up some good games this year against bad teams like Dallas, and they're playing some ugly football against bad teams and kind of going in there and, sloshing it out against the Raiders, against the Jets, some of these teams that you just don't think are that great all the way around. I think when this week coming for the Chiefs, it's going to be really big that they stop the run. They struggled. Everyone saw against Buffalo, James Cook had a heck of a day. He went over 100. It was an awesome performance by him. I think the Chiefs are going to come out and they're going to be committed to stopping the run. And, you think about it last year, the Chiefs backups played that last game in Denver, whatever, that didn't count. But when they came to Arrowhead, it's not like Nix was John Elway throwing the ball down the field. That was a dirty football game. It was like a 17-14 game is what it came down to, basically. There was nothing crazy about what he was doing. And that's kind of the downside of taking a quarterback who's already putting money in his retirement account when you draft him, it's all that stuff is you kind of get, is you're kind of getting what you're going to get. Now, I don't think, I think he could still continue to improve, but he hasn't been great this season. He's looked inaccurate at times. He's making some silly decisions. I really would like to see the Chiefs try to take advantage of some of that this week, whether it's McDuffie or Watson or someone coming up with a pick or one of the safeties. I think this week, if they can try to, force some turnovers to him, put some pressure on him early, get the ball out of his hands, make him panic, I think that's going to go all the way.
When you mentioned the fact that the Broncos are going to need to run the football, but J.K. Dobbins, their workhorse back, is dealing with an injury, and shocker there, but he's doubtful to play in that game, or I guess he's questionable to play, so you can't count on that. And I think from what I've heard from my Denver guy, I don't think he believes that he's going to play. So that means it's R.J. Harvey's game, and he's been disappointing from a pure running game attack this year, but he's been great catching the football. So that's something the Chiefs and Spags are going to have to look out for because they have been burned at times by backs in the flat. And I also think that, an area that the Chiefs are going to have to defend well is the tight ends. And they don't have world beaters at tight end, but Troutman and, Ingram, if you don't, put a guy on them, if you don't bring a safety up into the box, then they're capable of, moving the chains and getting those first downs. And that's kind of what killed them against Buffalo. Would you agree?
Yeah, and this week they need a much better effort from the linebackers in general, specifically Drew Tranquill, when it comes to covering the tight ends and running backs out of the backfield, as well as the safety group as a whole. Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, and Jaden Hicks in there. So I'll be curious to see, how they decide to kind of stack up against some of that stuff. I will say, I think RJ Harvey is going to be a good player in the league. I think he's just kind of starting to hit his stride, or he's been off to a slow start. The thing with him, though, is you want to stop him early because when he gets into the second level is where I think he does a lot of his damage, where you can see those legs start to churn. He can break a tackle, kind of run around like, kind of like Maurice Jones-Drew-esque type player. So that would be where they need to get on him quick at the line of scrimmage when they do have a chance to tackle him.
But I think the encouraging thing from a defensive game plan perspective is that if you stop Bo Nix, then the game's going to be on RJ Harvey's shoulders. And based on what I'm hearing from the Denver guy, that Sean Payton doesn't want to run the football. It's very Andy Reid-esque. And so Bo Nix might draw back to throw it 45 times, and that's just not a recipe to win. And I think, that has been good enough to get by against teams like the Jets and the Giants, but against the Chiefs, you can't have a second-year quarterback throw the ball 50 times in this game. So, do you think that this is a game where maybe both teams come out and offensively look a little bit rusty and maybe it's a lower scoring game?
I could definitely see it being lower scoring just because of the Broncos defense and then some of their offensive issues. I think the Chiefs defense comes out fired up, though. I think they know kind of what's at stake. They didn't play very well against Buffalo. They did find their stride late versus Buffalo. They got attacked by a lot of stuff, but they made their adjustments and they were able to kind of turn it around. They put the offense in a position to go out and win. So that was positive to see. And offensively for the Chiefs, it's just going to be a matter of getting the ball out and trying to defend against the pass rush. Like, these guys are going to win quick, so you got to find a way to keep them honest, whether it's some of the misdirection, some of the motion stuff. I think they're going to pull out all the stops. This is a critical game for both teams. For Denver's, trying to hold on to a 1 seed, thinks they're in the hunt, and the Chiefs are technically on the outside looking in, though I don't think there's like a giant sense of panic within the team, but I think they know they have to come out here and win if they're going to continue to be, a competitive team down the stretch here. So a lot of stuff, there's going to be a lot of stuff to unpack regardless of what happens, but I'm just kind of waiting for it to happen. It's been a week without Chiefs football. I'm just ready for the bye week to be over.
Aren't we all? Do you have a final score prediction for this game?
Yeah, I'm going to go 27-23 Chiefs. I think the offense will figure it out early. I think they'll keep Bo Nix in check. I think he'll maybe have like a garbage time touchdown, and then the Chiefs continue to hold on to the ball late.
Okay. I think I had 28-25. I think the Chiefs are favored by like 3.5. the way these two teams play, it's probably going to come down to a field goal or maybe a blocked field goal. But Caleb, it was an absolute pleasure to get you on the show. Tell the people where they can find you on social media and what you got cooking on Arrowhead Pride.
Absolutely. You guys can go follow me on Twitter at CJ Scoobs. You can follow me on TikTok at CJ Scoobs NFL. And I'm working on right now a couple of articles. I had an article this week where I talked about the Chiefs' fourth downs and why they're already, they've already topped the Andy Reid's, number, like the most aggressive he's been on fourth down all year. They've already topped that by far, and we're only halfway through the season. So that's out now if you want to check it out. And then I have a Kingsley Suamaitea first half film review for the Chiefs left guard. He's putting up some good film. I think I think they have their answer at left guard for the next few seasons. So that's definitely been fun to put together, but that'll be out later this week.
And guys, all of his stuff will be linked in the description of this video. Hit that like button, subscribe for more daily Chiefs content. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video. And as always, go Chiefs.